Hey, it's Bobby. Day eight-ish, I think. I don't know. I've kind of lost track with the whole, getting the one video taken down and re-recorded. I've slipped another video in here, so I don't know exactly where we are. How you like the new backdrop? Can't say that I necessarily like it all that much, but can't find my old one, so the search is on. In the meantime, this will have to do. Kind of zen-ish, bamboo garden. And I want to continue the conversation about Zen Dad and resources. This can now become our international salute one another. Are you mindful? Yes. I make the journey from head to heart. We'll talk about that actually a little bit more as well. But one of the questions that I normally get about this phase of the process, because I've been bringing everything inside, because we've had the discussion that your feelings are not telling you about your circumstances, that's an illusion. As Einstein said, reality is an illusion, albeit a very persistent one. So let's have a little bit of a conversation around that. What do you think he actually meant? Now, earlier in one of these videos, we talked about the fact that here you are looking at me. You can stare into my eyes as I look into the camera, but you know you're not really seeing me. You're seeing a digital representation of me. But is that any different from what you're ever seeing of me? If we were physically present in the same space and actually light was bouncing off my skin and going into your pupils, would you be seeing me? What do you think? I mean, scientists will tell you, as we talked about before, the light goes through, it gets digitized, goes back to the occipital lobe, easy for me to say, and then is represented into the theater of imagination, to the theater of consciousness. And I've mentioned several times that consciousness is that space inside of us in which everything occurs. You know, if you have somebody that's rubbing their hand on your arms and you get goosebumps and you have that little feeling that goes up, where actually is that occurring? Our conditioning says it's occurring on my hand, and I'm getting goose flesh, but is it actually occurring in your hand or in that space within? I do a lot of work with people who are experiencing chronic pain. And occasionally, I have had people who have lost an arm. Typically, it was a veteran. In fact, probably every case it was a veteran, um, or a leg, but they still have a phantom pain in there that to them felt very real. And no amount of friends, families, physicians telling them, you don't have a hand anymore. You can't possibly be feeling pain in your wrist and your fingers anymore because it's not there. It was very, very real to them. Perception is reality. Even though the hand wasn't physically there, they were still perceiving the pain, the lingering pain that was inside of there. If I was physically with you and you were looking at me, what are you seeing? We know that if we look at anything in a powerful enough microscope, what we're seeing here is energy that's made up of atoms, and those atoms are 99.99999% empty space. And now we've got a new, not that new, but in quantum mechanics, we've got subatomic particles, particles that are smaller than atoms, because that one little bit of something that is showing up as an atom, when observed, as we get more and more powerful microscopes, we can see that that's made up of smaller things that are also 99.99999% wide open space. So what are we seeing? I want to submit to you that what you are seeing as you look at your computer and you look at me on your screen, what you're seeing is energy, energy and information. And if I was physically in your presence, you could say the energy is currently bobbying. I have a good friend at the Atom Center whose name is Dawn. That works out particularly well because you can say energy is currently dawning. And the energy is a process. We are flow. Every day, our body makes 180 billion new red blood cells. I mean, that's a crazy amount of money. Every day, our heart pumps 2,200 gallons of blood, enough to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool every month. We are much more accurately thought of as a process than a thing. We are energy that is bobbying. And I don't know if you're familiar with the double slit experiment. You can Google it. There's plenty of people much more gifted at explaining what it is than I am. But the short version of it is it's an experiment that they did back in the 20s to find out whether light was a wave or a particle. And the answer was it was both. It is unobserved, it is a wave, or actually, depending on how it's observed, it's a wave of light, but observed energy frozen in time looks like matter. It looks like a photon. And that developed the whole Heisenberg uncertainty principle, which we won't go into that either. But they're fascinating things to Google. And it's fascinating to consider us as energy. So I'm going to just invite you over the course of the next couple of days, as you're going on that scale, the how are you doing scale. And it's a completely subjective scale, and it's your own self-assessment. In fact, in a previous book that I wrote, I called it the SASSY scale, which is an acronym for self-assessment, simple scale of inner energy. And so we're just measuring the energy. We can use it to measure how much our mind, how much mental static we have in our cone, what's going on right there. And I invite you to just, as you're checking in, just check, how is your energy? And I know that sounds kind of hippy dippy woo woo, but that's okay. Just go with that. Just play with it a little bit. And recall, I know there's been times that you've walked into a room where two people have been fighting. And the minute the door opens, they stop and they look at you, and maybe you didn't hear what was going on, you didn't see what was going on, but you can feel what's going on. You can very definitely tell just from a reading of the energy. If you've ever been to a group meditation, I'm in a spiritual group here in Anchorage, and we get together every full moon for this really cool meditation, the full moon meditation. It's an hour of socializing and eating. We have a vegetarian potluck, mostly vegetarian potluck meal. Then we meditate for a solid hour. And that sometimes is a guided meditation, sometimes we're just in silence. And then we take that and socialize and kind of have a dessert round again. And then some of us will stay and do a second round, a second hour of meditation. And man, by the time that you leave that space, you have entrained into pure harmony, into pure bliss. It's absolutely magical. So for the next day or so, just kind of check in with that. Notice what sort of energy are you experiencing, because that tells you what kind that you're emanating. And notice what kind of energy these other perceptions of consciousness, the other people that are in our lives and the human experience, what kind of energy are they emanating? And just kind of notice that and play with that a little bit. And we'll dive a little bit deeper into that in tomorrow's video. So um, let me know what you think about the backdrop. Still searching for the other one. Ciao for now.